Joshua Whitehead is an OG Cree Two-Spirit indigiqueer scholar and storyteller from Peguis First Nation Treaty 1. He is currently working on a PhD in Indigenous Literatures and Cultures at the University of Calgary, Treaty 7. He is the author of Full Metal Indigiqueer, that's out with Talon Books, and the 2018 forthcoming Johnny Appleseed, that will be out with Arsenal Pulp Press. Artist statement. The projects I've done with my writing are about resistance, revisionism, and resurgence. I take to heart what Leanne Simpson has taught me, that we define resurgence through our own stories and communities. My work takes this to task by filtering story through my body and recentering and remembering Two-Spirit indigiqueer livelihoods as both vivacious and vicious. I exist outside of CanLit. I don't storytell for a settler nationalist canon, a literary land claim. I orate because my and our lives are on the line. My body is a petroglyph for the reclamation of Indigenous sovereignty. Please welcome Joshua Whitehead.
My name is Joshua Whitehead, and I come from Peguis First Nation, Manitoba, the Strait of the Spirit, Tante Uchinia. So I'm going to read an excerpt from the essay that is published in ARC. So I've been thinking a lot about what it means to love the land and be part of the land and use the land from an Indigenous epistemology. And I think I've started to come into that more after writing this. As I'm taking a Cree course and learning from elders in Treaty 7, where I'm at now. And I think about what my elder taught me, that Cree is the language of truth, that it's full of anti-Western worldviews based on animate and inanimate reciprocation rather than relying on feminine and masculine divisions. I've been thinking about the body and pain. I've been thinking about my body and pain. I've been thinking about Two-Spirit indigiqueer bodies and pain, bodies left, bodies peripheral, bodies disempowered and dispossessed, bodies forgot in the very calls for our TRC, bodies left to the wayside in our calls for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, leaving out the Two-Spirit as always. I've been thinking about pain in Cree, pain being tei, my body full of it, body, sakaskeneo, thinking about that, how that word phonetically sounds in English, saskaskeneo, sinew, but sakaskeneo also means it is full, it is animate. Wondering if the body, mia, is in pain, tei, does it become mia tei sakaskeneo, my body is full of pain. Does this reanimate our pain, making it, pain, a tangible thing, a material thing? If we do that, can pain become something we can make love to? Making love to make live, Kichitakosui Nikamuin, an honor song. Nikawi, my mother, story tells that when she was pregnant with me, she had a craving for mud and lighter fluid. The earth, our one true Nikawi, called to her so loudly that she broke a layer of grass skin and she burrowed her hands into the dark brown flesh. She scooped out a handful and she ate. The earth was wet, more mud than slop, and I imagine it drizzling down her cheeks and lining her throat and her guts. I picture that mud wrapping itself around our umbilical cord, nutrients leaching in the bath waters of her womb and feeding me, who in turn fed her. I wonder what it was about me that ever made her crave miskanak, turtle. Perhaps the land was teaching us a lesson in that moment, a lesson that rung throughout our bodies first and foremost. Did she want to harden us by breaking the skin and unraveling bone, to eat earth as it would mix with our organs, our sacs, our acids, and make resin, a shallak for our guts? Did it expunge through tears, snot, milk, and blood? How hard of a shell do you need to survive an apocalyptic nation state? And why did she crave lighter fluid? Was it some type of foreshadowing? Or perhaps be foreshadowing? Does your settler fire-water myth originate during insemination? You see, we were never supposed to live beyond childbirth. Both of us teetered on the edge of life with an IV and a whole lot of love. I thank Gishe Manitou for gifting us a shell, which really means I think Nikawi, always first and foremost. And in that prefix to Creator, I recognize the foundation of love, Gisagitin. An indigenous life is a primer in love between mother and child, earth and kin, community and Turtle Island. The story I take from Nikawi because it is as complex a creation story as they come. There is tragedy, pain, hope, love, dedication, perseverance, intuition, and a whole lot of comedy. Indigenous stories are ceremonious. We build worlds out of words, and we wrap language around ourselves as if it were a star blanket. The land teaches us to love and make love, and in that teaching, the land shows us how to thrive and to survive individually and together. We make love to make live. Nikawi taught me that. Leanne Simpson asks us to define resurgence through our own stories, our own communities, our own bodies. In this piece, I want to offer you anecdotes, small stories of resurgence from my life as an OG Cree Two-Spirit indigiqueer member of Peguis First Nation, Treaty 1, a home in the heart of the Métis Nation, a son of Manitowoc, the Strait of the Spirit, a freckle of the Assiniboine, Winnipeg, that muddy, muddy, muddy red river. Bayak. This story is a sacred hoop. Nistim, my niece, entered the world through a tear. Nisimis, my sister, bore her through a gash in her gut. She too burrowed into the earth flesh of her body and dug out a child, named her Akira. I think of Nistim as a protege Indian biopunk. My niece crystallizes around that legendary biopunk Akira, the one with the ability to world destroy and again to world build. I wonder what it means for her to take upon that name in battle against a character named Kaneda in the film R.E. Canada in real life. They had to pry her out of the bathwaters of Nisimis because she knew too the safety net of womb water, what it held, what it taught, what it promised, and how it loved. My niece knows her body, knows the truth of human engineering and the constellations of her own coding. She knows how to rip herself away from it too. And she is born into a world on the cusp of revolution. She's a wily character, Akira. She enjoys the outdoors, the feel of grass, mud, rocks, and leaves and bugs on her skin. She tries to climb trees too often, obsesses with the wonders in the branches above, which must feel like another world, the fourth world, the home she left to visit us. One day, a small crow fell from the tree in our front yard, a crow still too in its youth, its wings not fully grown. It fell from its nest and landed between two pines, squawking while its parents hovered above on the tips of trees. My niece and I found crow in the yard, picked them up, and with a ladder we placed them back into their nest. Crow fell again, and despite all of our attempts to keep crow alive, feeding them bread, defending the pines from cats and other prey, they eventually died between those pines. We dug up the earth in our backyard and buried crow there. Notawi, my father, cracked open a cigarette and we blanketed crow in tobacco, said a prayer, closed the casket of mud atop them and sat down, sullen, contemplative, on our back patio. Crow's parents and kin flocked to the burial site. They caught a cacophonous cry. Their squawks like the throbbing of a circle of drummers, all singing songs of pain. Nistim sat with us, laughing, looking up into the sky, surveying the limbs of bows that vibrated from the weight of birds, calling the crows beads instead of birds. While she laughed, We knew the real root of those crows' cries, that their baby was dead, and I couldn't do anything else in that moment but clutch my niece and apologize, say, Gisagitin, I love you, you two are my relation, Kakiani Wakomakanak. We remember too damn much. We chased each other around the yard, my niece and I, nipping at one another like coyotes, wrestling cubs in the grass, regressing into a feral state, a natural stance, a loving share, like the crows we cawed together, saying, Gisagitin, we're making it in the world. Our kisses and bear hugs are a Rowan dance, and our promises are ceremonious. Tired, Nistim and I lay in the grass calling those crows beads. What does it mean to call a bird a bead? What language does Nistim speak, and what authority do I have to correct her? She owns her stories as much as she owns her body. Her tongue is ceremonious. She honors crow too in her own way, gifts them a story through tradition, gifts them the name of the bead stitched onto her moccasin. Both of us lie there that day, the weight of her body pressing into mine, the low thrum of her breath pooling into the hollow in my chest, staring up at the Manitoban sky, the sun, its own type of tear, its own type of tear. This, I thought, must be what sovereignty feels like. And I owe Crow that lesson. Now, at 16 months, I watched Nistim pick up my cell phone and swipe it open. I listened to her talk to Siri and put the phone against her ear. She makes calls on my cell phone with noises from Kisei Manitou, a gift given from the land, a love note from our peoples. Her tongue is fresh from the ground and her language is ancestral. Her language is the noise of water ripping under Piesiwak. Her anger, the sound of a pickerel slap on the red. Laugh, the sound of oak trees jigging in the wind. My niece is terra full of us, land who owns itself. Nehia Isqueu, full of wonders, girl on fire, born from a tear, born from a tear. Her stories are encouragements that say you're doing it right, even if you're not quite all right. And her stories own themselves. She is teaching me how to actively resist on the daily. Playtime for her is preparation for me. Kisei Manitou has gifted her to us, the handiwork of Wo Manitoa Pau Isqueu Iske. The land is the girl who taught me how to sing the skin back onto my bones, who taught me how to make love to make live. Man, Nistim is a badass Indian biopunk. She, like Sky Woman, still has the power to create. I see it when she reads her books, when she gifts me rocks and dandelions, and I see it again when she calls birds beads. Behind her eyes is a galaxy in formation, and her words materialize the imaginative. Her body is the dream of resurgence that I will fight to preserve. I love you, my niece. Be careful. Eat stories. Are you full yet? Stand with me and sing your earth songs. Thank you. Hinanas Gomitan.